How to make a fashion statement. Step 1. Take your favourite piece of clothing. Step 2. Turn it inside out to show the label. Step 3. Take a picture. Step 4. Ask the brand, who made my clothes? You've just joined millions of people in demanding the fashion industry changes. Because fashion isn't working. Poverty wages, pollution, and unsafe working conditions are the reality for the people who make our clothes. Asking who made my clothes shows that you want fashion that's beautiful, fair, and safe for everyone. And when you speak up, brands will listen and act. Make a fashion statement that matters.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us here for Fashion Revolution Week. I hope you've had a good Earth Day yesterday. Fashion Revolution Week is part of the wider Earth Day campaign by Think City in collaboration with Fashion Revolution and Friends of Bukit Kera. There are a whole suite of activities for us to be a part of restoring our Earth, and we'd love for you to join in. We're pushing this calendar into the chat for you to look for yourself as well, and we hope we'll see you at the rest of our events. So Fashion Revolution Week happens every year in the week coinciding with 24th April, the anniversary of the Rana Plaza disaster in Bangladesh. And each year, we remember the lives lost and demand that no one should die for fashion and campaign for systemic change in the fashion industry. We've kicked off with a whole bunch of events yesterday with our fashion waste panel, diving into the scale of our overconsumption and overproduction, the argument for supporting local and how can our local industry shape a fair and responsible future. This Fashion Revolution Week, we are partnering with Think City Institute, Global Shapers Kuala Lumpur, Raffles Institute, and respected voices across the fashion industry as we bring people together from across our community to amplify unheard and marginalized voices and work together to explore innovative and interconnected solutions. As a huge thank you for everyone who's joining us here today as part of Think City Institute's Earth Week 2021 campaign, attendees will also be receiving a 30% discount voucher for the Habitat Penang Hill. So let's keep this an interactive session. The chat box is open for you there, for you to share your insights and for any questions you would like to address to our panelists. Let's see. Now, just to dive into today's topic, to set the scene, is we're going to be diving into, is the fast fashion industry facing an existential crisis, and how does the fashion industry adapt to not only this pandemic but the bigger issue of climate change? I would like to introduce you to our first panelist, Wong Xiaocheng, founding partner and CEO of Earth Air. Xiaocheng founded and leads Earth Air, working with 100 artisans, including women cooperatives, indigenous tribes, and refugees to combine traditional artisanal skills with modern contemporary design. Xiaocheng is an Acumen Fellow and alumna of the Global Good Fund and Miller Center for Social Entrepreneurship. Welcome, Xiaocheng. So happy to have you here with us today.
Thanks for having us, Melissa.
Next up, we have Jacqueline, founder of Tanoti, a former investment banker and law graduate. Jackie founded Tanoti in 2012 to take over a Sarawak-based weaving workshop, which was facing imminent closure. From its initial community of 11 artisans, today Tanoti engages with more than 300 craft artisans throughout Sarawak's rural and remote populations, exporting to US, Europe, and Australia. Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks for having me.
Super grateful you guys could be with us today. And next up, we have Najmia Zulkarnain, co-founder of Unplug. Najmia is a creative entrepreneur with a passion to utilize arts, culture, and design for positive social changes. Her retail platform, Unplug, now hosts over 45 conscious brands from Malaysia and around the world with the drive to contribute to a sustainable retail change. And we have Najmia joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And last but not least, we have Ambika Sangaran, CEO of Biji Biji Ethical Fashion. Ambika has a deep interest in decoding business, social, and environmental challenges. She cares about the natural world and its safekeeping, the underprivileged people beleaguered by socio-economic constraints, and the resource inequity creating socio-economic imbalances in society. She aims to contribute towards constructive nation building and a fair and equitable world. And she will be moderating our panel of local powerhouses here today. So thank you so much, Ambika.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you for having me here.
Take it away.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to today's session. And good morning. So is sustainable fashion more resilient? That's the big question that we will be asking Xiaocheng, Nashmia, and Jackie this morning. All three, as you know, are fashion entrepreneurs who put sustainability and ethics in the forefront of their businesses. And as you already know, fast fashion is bad. It is bad for the environment, for the people, and also thus for everyone. It drives hyperconsumption, depletes nature resources, increases the rate of climate change, keeps wages low, and keeps hundreds of thousands workers in poverty. So fashion revolution is the movement to advocate for sustainable fashion and to change the status quo. The pandemic as well has further highlighted how unsustainable fast fashion is. That being said, let's start today's discussion with finding out how the businesses have been to all our panelists amidst the pandemic that we are all living through. Xiaocheng, let's start with you. How's the business going, both for your B2C and B2B markets?
So for Earth Air, when the pandemic started last year, we definitely saw a dip in B2C. We basically started operating assuming that B2C offline and B2B are totally gone. So the first thing that we run into was to go online. We already have been running our e-commerce for a few years already. However, when the pandemic started, we put our full team focus onto the online platform, and straight away we started innovating. Is there any other products that we think people are looking for? And that's how I think we weathered through the storm that happened and still happening. It's still happening. And yeah, so I would say right now, B2C and B2B, they sort of fluctuates as depending on how the MCO is happening in our country and the city. So when events are allowed to happen again, we see some B2B happening. Overall, we do see B2B has been quite steady. And for B2C, offline is definitely depending on the SOP set by the government. However, for online, I think we see a bit more flexibility for us to play around with. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's the first show of like change of platforms, right? Like offline to online, etc. Thanks, Xiaocheng. Now going to Najmia, right? I understand Unplug is a retail platform and you're hosting more than 45 conscious brands from not only Malaysia but around the world. You have a physical presence at Bangsa Village too. You do have an online presence as well. So how has the business been for you?
So my business started it with offline. We never wanted to go online so soon just because it's a new market. People want to touch, feel, experience. It's an extra mile to educate them and really have a dialogue in store. So it hit us pretty bad because we only got online during the first lockdown. But we survived somehow, like Earth Air. We put our resources and focus on online. And as lockdowns would lift, we would see a shoot in sales, revenge shopping. And that has helped on the low season, but it's very volatile. It's like a roller coaster. So we're still, and we've also pivoted a bit in terms of merchandising. But what's surprising is that we have a lot more brands knocking on our doors. And I think they just need that extra support.
Okay, that's interesting to know. right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we see a trend here, and we've heard from. So now let's hear from Jackie. She, on
Um,
the other hand, pardon. So Jackie has she not only produces but also exports the craft to the world, right? So how has that business been for you, Jackie?
well, the pandemic was a really dampener of a real dampener on our business. A lot of our business was B2B. Uh, we have a huge amount of artisans, and we are more able to deliver in bulk, right? So when the pandemic hit, and all through 2020, our revenue for crafts actually dropped by 70%. So it was incredible. Actually, it was incredible that we made money in crafts at all. We didn't think that the business could have survived if it weren't for the fact that we pivoted during the pandemic to produce PPE. So we're glad that we have uh, contracts for PPE to subsidize our craft and continue to support. Um, and I think that was the most important. Suffering a 70% drop, we have never generated revenue so low, not even the first year of our business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, right? So now that we've mentioned the PPE making, so I do want to touch on the topic as well before we move on to the other questions. Um, so that's what like a number of brands, a lot of the sustainable fashion brands did come together last year to make PPE, right? And that was a strategy. Like one was to pivot, another one is to pivot towards the online sales, another one is to make new products, face masks, etc., and also to continue giving work to your basically to your producers because that's what sustainability brings, right?
Mm.
So like because how easy or how hard was it for you to pivot to make those changes?
For us for Unplug, we saw that when the first lockdown was lifted, everyone was able to travel. So everyone was able to travel, and so we saw there was a demand for apparel like swimwear, slippers, you name it. But and they were moving so fast. It was like a revenge shopping. So we were able to invite other similar like-minded brands to come on board. And it's the same with home, our home category. Everyone was investing in home items. So we immediately reached out to those brands and said, now is the time. Let's bring the products in. So it's been very organic in that sense. But we try to really react to customer needs and impulses at the moment. But it's very, I can definitely see a shift because some of our best-selling items before COVID was travel, zero-waste items. Whether it's like a portable bottle or, a lot of these zero-waste travel items that are easy and light to carry on. But that has been like poor sales since COVID, and now people are switching it to home and apparel. So, and I think that's going to stay for a while.
Yeah, thanks for the yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Xiao Cheng.
For us, going online was the first thing that focusing on our online platform was the first thing that we did. Our pivot came when we started making reusable masks. To be honest, we already started looking into reusable masks before the MCO started. However, at that time, WHO wasn't recommending fabric masks, and that's why we kept that idea KIV. And then when our MCO started, we saw that WHO changed their guidelines. So because globally there was a shortage of the medical disposable masks for medical frontliners, and therefore they were recommending if you use fabric masks, these are the certain guidelines. So therefore we're like, okay, perfect. This is the time that we can start exploring this again. And at the same time, as a World Fair Trade Organization member, WFTO, they sent us some design and templates that were already tested in Hong Kong and in China for home masks. So that was when we started sorting out. Basically, we were sorting out our production for a new product while working from home. And we were relying a lot on Lala Move and Grab to just sort out our production. So that was how we started the pivot. And we were unsure how our customers will react to this. So we did a pre-order. And the pre-order just started flooding in, and we realized that, okay, we can take this adopt this as a serious product. So that was the mask. And then later on, we also called, as a few of you here, we contacted each other during that time. And we realized that also, I think in Malaysia, PPE was definitely a shortage, right? And I just wanted to verify it. So I called up a few frontliners numbers that I got. And true enough, they were telling me that the frontliners have to go to Mr. DIY to buy raincoats to protect themselves. So we're like, okay, since we can sew, why not we sew PPE? So that's when Jackie sent me the template of all the PPE stuff, and she sent me all the requirements of materials, and we were sharing contacts, and we started the first batch of our PPE fundraising. And we never, as a brand, we have never done fundraising for donation. So, but during the pandemic, the public was totally generous when we started saying that we want to raise funds for 300 sets. And in less than half an hour, we hit the target. So we realized that people are more generous and they have small needs. So we continue on the PPE project for a few months, and that really, really supported our artisans. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the PPE pivot came because I have two family members who are working in the general hospital. My brother and my sister-in-law during the time of the pandemic. And when we started MCO on 17th of March, we could feel that there was a lot of tension amongst themselves, like, and in our family group chat. And there was an imminent lack of PPE for frontliners and also for the clean side of the hospitals. And people were getting infected, like surgeons who are doing orthopedic surgery were getting infected with COVID. And it was very, very serious at that time. And there was an appeal by the hospital in Sarawak, the SGH, to say that there is, 5 days of PPE stock left. And it obviously was a panic because, nobody knew what COVID was. And by 29th of March, which is 11 days after the start of lockdown, we had started supplying to the hospital. And we supplied continuously every day to Sarawak General Hospital, which was the only COVID hospital, right until CMCO started. Every single day we supplied. And I think we were happy to have met at least half of their PPE requirements at that time, which was phenomenal. What happened after that was that we did such a good job with our donations of the PPE and the quality of our PPE and the packing, I don't know, that we got a contract from the government to supply PPE to the hospital despite not having any licensing. And that was when we generated sufficient revenue to then support our entire craft business, and until now, we still have sufficient cash flow till today from that contract. And I thank God that seriously, if it weren't for government intervention or assistance or support by the government, I don't think we would have survived.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So every little bit helps, I guess, or every step means something for us.
Thank you for sharing your stories of pivot, which is a story of kind of struggle, but I would see it as a story of success, right? Because after almost we've just gone through March again, so it's like almost a year of this journey. And one thing that I want to point out, right? This is the story of resiliency. When we needed something else to happen, the sustainable brands are able to move their resources, their labor, their materials, to make something that was in need, right?
Yeah.
We were able to meet the need of the whoever that needs it. I am not businesses can meet this kind of needs when you are not depending on global supply chains or some manufacturer somewhere else to be meeting your local needs, right? Yeah. Going on, right? Touching on what happened last year, about this time as well, a lot when the sustainable brands like Earth Air and Tanuti was trying to meet the demands.
This fabric, it's not interface.
I'll probably jump in here. It seems like Ambika has left the room due to connection issues. Maybe I'll address that question to either one of you. I think her last question was discussing about the benefits of having local production, mostly local productions, versus having to rely on a global supply chain, and how has that helped you pivot in this time? Thanks. And she's back.
Agility, I think, to have the ability to change specifications and designs and produce immediately. That was that's I think that's a selling point, a unique selling point of all our brands. We can change dimensions by half a centimeter or half an inch, and we can start producing tomorrow if we wanted. Yeah.
I think for us, having local production definitely has helped when the logistics were sort of put on hold during the pandemic, the first lockdown. So you can't get anything from outside of the country. So having local production, and it truly helped us to see the importance of how important it is for us as an economy to also have some self-sufficiency rather than always relying on imports. So I think, yeah, so for us, because we have always been focusing on local production, we were able to still work around, and, you know, our stuff is just one Grab or one Lalamove or one Post Laju away. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with Shell on that, like self-reliance, because I've seen a few brands that are unable to continue after their stock's finished because they do rely on importing their raw materials or their fabrics, and it's uncertain. You know, they're not, and prices have gone up. You know, there's a yarn crisis, copper prices have gone up, and that's, you know, on top of that, you have logistics costs has gone up by 50% as well. So definitely the direction forward is, you know, working local.
All right, thank you guys. Sorry that I got cut off a little bit in there. Yeah, then moving forward, my next question is, like, selling to B2C customers is quite straightforward, right? You exchange goods with payment. But then we also tend to do a lot of B2B orders, which are not that straightforward. More often than not, the payment terms are 60 days or more. So the brands are forced to pay for your labor and materials first, and then you supply the product, and then you wait for another 30 to 60 days or maybe more for the payment, right? And that causes huge cash flow issues. So what is your opinion on such payment terms, Jackie?
I suffered that for 2 years. Sometimes I have to pump it to manage working capital gaps, but I'm quite clever. I've applied to the bank for a facility, so I'm quite pleased. So I've applied for a banking facility for my organization to be able to undertake these projects, knowing that the credit period are up to 3 months.
Can I jump in here? Isn't that a risk? Like, have you ever faced a situation where the client end up not paying and you had to bear the cost?
I have that's not the risk, because we assess the client, and obviously they have to have a good credit standing. But the risk is actually us. The risk of our non-delivery is much higher than any risk.
You're so honest.
One day I'll write a book.
Waiting. Right. Okay lah. Thanks for that. Going forward, right? Xia Cheng, the WFTO standard handbook, it says for handicraft and other non-food fair trade products, an interest-free prepayment of at least 50% can be made on request. And you are a WFTO certified brand. Here, WFTO means World Fair Trade Organization. So does this stipulation make you more resilient as it offers some cash upfront to you?
So, to be honest, I didn't know that they stated this in the handbook, but we already practiced this since very early on, mainly because we always explain to our clients or partners that working with our artisans, we always make sure that they are paid on time, and we always come out upfront with a material cost. So having 50% deposit always help us to ensure that the order it's confirmed, I guess, because we had incidences where people come to us and they want to say, oh, we would like to work with you, engage with you. And after we went into the prototype process and so on and so forth, and then there was nothing happen. So we have invested all our time, all our resources, making all the samples, and we didn't hear back. So we have learned that as a startup social enterprise in the earlier years, we really have to protect ourselves. And therefore we say, okay, if this is the quotation, if you like to make a sample, blah, 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 we would like to confirm the order with 50% deposit. Or they can purchase the sample or prototype first. And then when we confirm the order, we'll encourage for deposit. We still face corporate clients, especially who have 60-day or 90-day payment terms. Sometimes we are very fortunate to have partners or clients who are very understanding. They do try to get or speed up the process for us. In the case where the procedure is really hard for them to override, we just have to tighten our belts and make sure that we manage our cash flow very, very carefully. Yeah, but we never, one thing that we never compromise on is to pay our artisan on time. Yeah, and the quality that we deliver to the clients.
Yeah, that's very true as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Xia Cheng and also Jackie. So the next question, right, for Najmia. So unlike Jackie or Xia Cheng, Najma has a retail platform. A retail platform that brings other retailers together, and also she facilitates trade. And she imports her products. So the pandemic has seen disruptions in supply chain, causing issues in procurement. So did the pandemic cause supply chain disruptions create any challenges for you, Najmia?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've had, like I mentioned before, a few of our brands have stopped, put their business on hold. I was also running Realm alongside Unplug, and we've put that on hold because we relied our supply coming from Turkey, and the cost is just too high. And again, looking at sales and distribution, things are slow, so it's a bit of a risk for us to make that next order. Supplies with those brands that are struggling, it's also, they're relying on their old stocks to finish up. And, when you're in retail, you need a full shelf, right? You can't just completely finish your stock and then replenish. It just doesn't work that way in terms of retail experience and merchandising. So they're struggling with raising that funds to buy their new supplies because costs has just gone up. And so we're facing a challenge here. But yeah, I think we're all being understanding and knowing that everyone's facing it. Everything is slow right now.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. All right. Moving away from all the supply chain questions, right? I would like to explore a little bit about the future. What's the 10 years goal for all of you?
Well, I think pandemic taught me not to plan so long. Really, that was one of my biggest take home is I am going to take it, if I can, month by month, 6 months, if ever. But I've learned to really, be open to change and adapt and not plan too long because you don't know. It's so uncertain.
Second that.
Answer, right? Like what else could be? Jackie, do you have anything to add?
My 10-year goal for my organization is that we will become obsolete in current capacity that we do, because we are here to help people who are underserved, right, by the government or communities because of access, generally because of access. So in 10 years, hopefully access is equitable, everybody gets the same access, and they will be able to do their own business. So my 10-year plan is to be obsolete. 5-year plan. I don't want to wait 10 years. And I think for my firm, then my organization will need to then change to become maybe a capacity builder or a community builder rather than a production entity. And I look forward to it. I look forward to organizing conferences and building collaborations. 5 years.
That's noble, Jackie. We wish you best of luck, and we really do want to see that day coming very soon, right?
Yeah.
Much faster than 5 years, maybe.
Yeah. Let's not be too ambitious.
All right, let's not be too ambitious then. Jackie, I just want to explore a little bit, right, more on what you mentioned. So just wanted to touch upon what would have happened to your community if you did not continue your work during the pandemic?
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about it a bit because during the pandemic and movement control, we couldn't get into the communities. There's no way we could go 100 kilometers away from the city. How are we going to go 600 or 700 kilometers, right? So it was a very scary situation for me. I had to go through a lot of thinking and a lot of strategy to try and get products out. We had to get the product, someone from Miri to go in and get it out and bring it out to me, and it was a mess. But the moment the movement control was lifted and I went back to the villages, a lot of them were blockading. So they were starting blockades and charging thousands of ringgit for people to pass. And that's how they make money. And it was tragic. I couldn't believe that happened. They were charging Petronas, the oil company, to pass through, or construction companies who are building roads, charging them. And if it continued, I think it would have been a huge social and economic problem over there. Good thing, movement control has lifted and now, is a more healthy and safe environment going into the villages. Yeah, it was tough. And how the government gives out money to people who are compromised during the pandemic. That doesn't go to them, it doesn't flow to them because they don't have registered employment, they don't have anything, no association that they belong to, no society. And it's really, really horrible, horrendous. So yeah, we did help a little, but we hope that it will never happen again. And if it did, hopefully our supply chain can be improved. I don't know how, but hopefully we would be able to establish an ideal logistics strategy to carry items out and to pay them. Yeah. Oh, tough. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we can.
I don't know. I don't know if you have that problem as well. At Earth Air with the Orang Aslis, whether they took to protesting or extorting money.
So when what happened last year was when when the pandemic started, we called every single group of our artisans, including the Orang Asli groups. But the Orang Asli artisans that we work with, they have certain access to urban facilities, so they weren't facing the issue that much. In fact, the government has given out a lot of prihatin or support. So our Malaysian artisans in general, last year we found out they were okay. It was the refugees that were totally exposed. I'm not sure if you all remember, there were a lot of hate and xenophobic happening in the press, and people were just calling them virus and all those kind of stuff. And a lot of refugees also, because refugees in Malaysia cannot work legally, so they actually help out in restaurants or get odd jobs. And when the movement control happened, they were the first to get laid off. And being a refugee, it's very dangerous for them to even go out to buy things when things were so strict and tension was so high during that time. So we really thank God having the PPE and the mask production were the ones that really helped them to go through that period, because they were able to earn and they were able to have support and buy their own food. Whereas for our Malaysian artisans, we did have some government support that we can use those money to. And also a lot of them, though they have access to the urban facilities, they still live in a very self-sustainable manner. So they have their own veggies, vegetables and chickens and all those in their housing area. Yeah. So that was the situation that we found.
Okay. Yeah. Both experiences, right? It also points out that, going back to the title again, whether the sustainable fashion is more resilient. I guess this also shows that during the hard times, the local brands, the sustainable fashion brands, were still working, finding a way to get employment or even to reach your producers and suppliers instead of cutting orders, right, and not paying and etc. all those things. So amazing work in there. I just want to bring up a question from the audience. Natasha asked, how do you go about the matter of local sustainable businesses be seen as something that is expensive and exclusive only to those who can afford the luxury of being brand conscious? She has purchased from DigiBG, Earth Air, and Unplugged, but she said she's lucky enough to be able to make those purchases. Nashmia, would you like to answer that question?
Actually, that was top of my mind always when I think about this change of mindset for fast fashion, right? Because it's a mindset, it's a big problem because we've been conditioned that things are accessible. Everything is cheap. Even now with Shopee, it's the same, technique of getting people to purchase based on discount. And not only that, now we're facing a discount culture because consumers expect brands to give away their dead stock, put it on sale, or they come in, they're saying you're not even having sales, so why not? I expect a discount because everyone's giving a discount, and that's happening now. So I feel like there's a lot more education and awareness to go into the supply chain and the actual cost of things. I think one of Fashion Revolution's first documentary that they promoted, which was True Cost, was a good example, and we need more of that because that's what we constantly struggle with. And that's most of the dialogue that happens in store is educating our customers, not just the stories and the values behind the products, but the cost. You know, I remember talking to Jackie, we were trying to sell one of her mats, and they were asking, you know, why is it so expensive? And we had a discussion with Jackie about like logistics of getting those mats out there, the harvesting, the knitting. So all of that, it needs to be conveyed because a lot of customers, they forego the cost of actual price of supplies and products, and you're not even talking about the artisan time and hours that are put into that because they're used to things being available. You know, people want more for their money, but they're not looking at quality and where that cost actually goes. Yeah. So I think, and the reality now is that people are more frugal. So it's also a big question mark as to how we can grow in business because everyone's struggling with money.
Yeah. On top of production costs, which I think Mia has covered almost everything. When we buy something cheap, it comes with a true cost somewhere else. It's at the cost of someone else, or it's just somewhere else that we don't see, but we thought that should be the actual cost. But on top of the cost, I would like to touch on a bit about the value that you are getting when you buy good quality items. So for example, we are so used to buying a 50 ringgit bag or 10 ringgit t-shirts, but how often do you buy a new t-shirt? How often do you buy a new bag? And then what is the lifespan of the product that we get, and where do they end up? They end up in landfills, right? But if we buy something that has a longer lifespan, say you buy a bag that is 300 ringgit, but it lasts you 5 years, right? Or more than 5 years, instead of buying a 50 ringgit bag every single year, or buy 2 or 3 bags every single year. Yes, it gives you, it might make us feel more, make us feel like we have more variety, but are we doing it at the cost of something else, right? So I think these are the things that we can consider, and the costs that go behind it and the value of what we are getting.
Yeah, I think it's changing the way we look at purchasing. It's actually everything is an investment. It should be.
Yes.
But immediately, if the price is way too cheap, it's going to be disposable. You know, you don't care if it's ripped the next day because you didn't really spend much on it.
Yes, very true. Jackie, you have anything to add on?
I think what hurts the most is when you know that someone bought your product and discarded it in the time frame that's shorter than it took to make. It will kill me. Yeah. A lot of our products are natural, and rattan takes 15 to 19 years to grow before it can be harvested. So we are making products to last. Yeah. If someone were to buy something that's made of rattan and to dispose it in 5 years,
yeah, some products are made for life. For example, like, I think for our grandparents' generation, they use things for life, right? Their clothing are made and they wear it for life. Their tikas, the floor mats, they use it for life. And that's how we can be part of taking care of the environment as well.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's more meaningful, you know?
Yeah. Like, we should be proud of how long your items can last versus how cheap your item is.
And how many memories it can help you make.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah, right here, I'm getting so much of context that, like, for a successful, sustainable fashion campaign, you know, like, these are the points that actually brings the values. It's timeless, it lasts longer, there is of a high quality, and the fast fashion products is not even made to last long. not you. It sometimes it's only made to last 3 months or 4 months, so that the next season there will be something new that we will go and purchase. So I think it's about highlighting or maybe even advocating to the communities. What is your opinion? Do you think we should, like the fast fashion, the sustainable fashion brands should be highlighting more about the quality of the product, or maybe even communicating to the fast fashion customers on how their product is made, not from the angle of labor that have been mentioned, but more from the quality, like how a certain cut should be done, how the stitches should be done, things like that. Do you think that would make people to convert to a sustainable fashion more? Any takers?
I think what's important is the value of the product according to the story that the product comes with.
Yeah.
The story of the maker, the story of the environment,
Yeah.
the story of how your purchase has somehow stifled degradation of forests. I know it's a it's a small contribution, but people are compelled to make money. If they can't make money from weaving their natural fibers, they will make money from selling their land to palm oil plantations or loggers. So I think you have to tell them that you have actually given them an option. Like, your purchase has given people an option to continue to live in the way that helps the world.
And I think for small future sustainable brands or conscious driven brands, it's to put aside that fund for content marketing, really. And I think being able to do, really short films is one of the most powerful ways to show people what the story is, right? I've always wanted to go into one of the villages with Jackie to like record and capture that, but it's a lot of cost, so it's one of those things that you need to really plan towards and raise the funds for, but it's a lot of content that needs to be worked on, and not only that, but distributing the content to the right people.
That's true.
Yeah.
To-do list.
Sure, one more thing to do, right? Yes, but it's amazing. It's amazing.
These films. Let's do a fundraiser to get these films out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Good. We all can keep our eyes on and for opportunities that might make things work, right? Okay, so we've discussed environment, we've discussed a little bit of labor, we've also discussed about products, etc. Just how else are you integrating resiliency into your business model? Is there anything else that any one of you doing? Any special little trick, secret that's adding to the resiliency?
I think that it's very important to continue to be passionate about this business. Yeah, I think that is most important. The key people will continue to have to be passionate. This business will not. I mean, businesses such as ours, it's hard to it's hard to quantify. It's easier to justify qualitatively. But we started with so few people, 11 people, and now we have to support 300 people. If we're not committed to it, I think either if we're not committed to it, we'll fail in our objectives. And commitment can only, in this business, commitment can only be shown by certain passion or drive.
Yeah, commitment.
It's been a tough year. It's laughable how tough it is.
I mean, safe to say, I think we're all on survival mode. I'm also surprised how we're still standing. The business.
You better.
It's a miracle. Yeah.
We need you.
But like, you know, for you, it's the artisans in the community, and for me, it's all the brands that we host. You know, we're thinking about that the most, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your responsibility is exponential.
Well,
Correct. All the responsibilities. We do have two questions from the audience. One is from Melissa asking, how does your business models of slow fashion adapt to the fickleness of consumer demand?
Fickleness meaning they want new designs, yeah? Just to clarify.
Sorry?
When you mean fickleness, is the idea of having new designs constantly?
Or do they mean customization?
Yeah.
I would say more of new designs.
Yeah. For me, it's okay. Dip and demand. Okay. For me, it helps because we're kind of like a marketplace for a few brands, and so there's variety there. And so that's why we kind of came up with that model as well, because we knew that if you are in retail, you need to constantly offer variety. But I think a lot of designs have moved and steered towards classic and timeless design, so that it could still meet the needs of those that are into style and what's relevant, but it could also last in terms of sustainability, having it in your wardrobe profile. So timeless design always moves, but yeah, in terms of having new designs so often, we just don't cater to that. We don't at all, and we try to replicate them. Why?
We usually design timeless pieces or pieces that you can use for multi-purpose or at different functions. Once a year, we do try to have a new colorway or a new collection, but it's totally limited because the pieces are all taken they usually take many hours or weeks or months to make. So we do have that as well for people who want new things, but we definitely are not following every season you have a new colors and all that. Sorry, I just want to go back to Natasha's question a bit because I noticed she mentioned, I couldn't see the question just now. She mentioned about being expensive and all. So I think the point is not for us all to buy only the expensive sustainable brands, because I think people think that sustainable must be expensive, but it's just how you live a sustainable lifestyle. So for example, I had a dress that I bought from a fast fashion brand 10 years ago, but if you treat that as a piece that you can wear for long term and all that, you are not contributing to the cycle of changing every season or buying cheap and disposable. So the idea is a lifestyle is not to move you from one consumerism to another consumerism group. But of course, the sustainable brands are here to offer something quality and thoughtful and long term for you. Yeah. So I hope, we address that.
Good. Thank you for pointing that out, Xiao Cheng. Actually, that's very true as well. The next question is from Sylvie. There's been a big shift with consumerism among the youth for thrifting. Though it is purchasing second-hand goods, often they are purchased for the same reasons for fast fashion. Going back to what I guess Xiao Cheng mentioned, to be in trend, and then the items will be thrown away after. As sustainable brands, what are your thoughts on this? Xiao Cheng?
Yeah, I think it's the spirit of what you are doing something, right? It's about, even though we are buying a second-hand goods, but if our mindset is to buy and throw that away, then I think that it's what you intend that product to be, right? So, but if the idea is to buy that second-hand good and use it for as long as you can, or not buy it so that the next person who buy it can use it for as long as he can, so that we don't dispose it. And I think there's this quote that says, "The heart of the matter is the matter of the heart." It's the intention behind what we do something. Yeah. So I hope that covers it.
Yeah, I think also perhaps because she's asking as sustainable brands, what are your thoughts on this? I think if you're a retailer or a brand, it helps to be able to share some resources with your customers because a lot of them don't know where to dispose their clothes or where to give it to, right? There are a lot of we've heard of cloth cares, their bins are everywhere, but there's also so many families that need, whether they're refugees or having a hard time now that could do with this donation. We can share a bit more resources with our customers that could help them switch their behavior.
True. Yeah, that's a good point.
Very true. We are almost coming to the end of our panel session. So I'd like to go around for final thoughts from our panelists. Is there anything you would like to share with Jackie, with the audience today?
I'd like to thank all our fans and buyers who have been with us through this journey, and we really appreciate the fact that they continue to support us and allow us to grow and develop ourselves. It's every purchase gesture is appreciated, and they all mean something to us, especially since we started so small and we're still so small. Yeah, it's a heartfelt.
We can feel your heart through our screens, Jackie.
No, it's true. It's true. It's not an easy journey. It won't be, for a long time. So, there are not very many people in the world who consume sustainable brands, and the more people there are, the easier it is for us to operate and to help make a difference.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Nashmia.
For me, last thoughts, just to encourage everyone to really ask, yourself core questions before you purchase something. It's Fashion Revolution Week. Everyone's asking who made my clothes, but ask yourself simple things. How many times am I going to wear this? What industry, who am I supporting and putting my money here, right? Like, look at your purchases and as investments, and support your local businesses as well. That's really important at this time.
Thank you, Nashmia. Xiaocheng, last but not least. Yeah.
For me, I think my last thoughts is I'm being very hopeful that more and more people are being aware of what sustainability is, not just in the fashion, but in our lifestyle, in our businesses. And we do see more and more of these dialogues, or people are asking more questions, and that's really good. I also want to share my heart to really thank everyone who really have been making conscious choices. And we recognize that conscious choices also come with a bit of a sacrifice or higher cost at times, but just know that these are worth it. And I'm just being very hopeful and just being here talking to all of you, my friends. Yeah, it's just being very thankful and hopeful, and know that there are still people working on this, and it's a responsibility for everybody, and it's not just for people who are working in the brands itself. Yeah, so I think more and more people recognize that, and I'm very thankful.
Thank you. With that, we come to the end of the panel session today, and I would like to pass back to Melissa.
Thank you so much, you guys, for sharing your heart and your minds with us today. I'm very, very grateful. And thank you so much to all the audience for joining us. We'll say goodbye to you for now so you can get along with your day while I continue to share more with the audience. Thank you so much because, we have very supportive crowd within the fashion revolution space from our speakers. So they've touched on a few points like the amount of effort and time that goes into a piece of fashion. And coincidentally, Fashion Revolution Malaysia is producing a series called Meet the Makers, which will be launched later this week and in the coming months as well, where we really go behind the scenes into what kind of effort and what are the thoughts of the people behind our clothes, and how much to bring that sense of appreciation of our garments, because they didn't just appear instantaneously. They took considerable amount of resources and effort to get to us. Next up, we're also conducting a survey, a consumer behavior survey for the Malaysian public, and we would really appreciate and would love to invite you to participate in this, because we have limited local data on consumer sentiment around the sustainability of fashion, and we've relied mostly on anecdotes or Western focused studies, and we aim to address the misconception that the growing concern amongst consumers in sustainability is a Western concept. And this report will be specific to a Malaysian data set supporting a Southeast Asian study conducted by Fashion Revolution Singapore and Oxford Development Consultancy. And this will not just be for fun, this will be used to drive conversation in Malaysia, especially amongst other fashion brands that have yet to pursue sustainability and relook their processes, because we want to have your voices heard in the conversation and to really drive home that Malaysians want change in the fashion industry. Next up, we also have, we would like to invite you to our next event, Batik. Is it thriving or merely surviving? Happening at 3 p.m. later today. Batik is an iconic part of our culture, but the question is it mainly for tourists or a sense of our national pride? We'll dive into why it matters for us to know how, where, and who makes what we buy, the environmental issues and challenges faced in the batik industry, and is there a risk that we would lose it altogether, that batik technique will fade away with the accelerated pace of fashion, seeing the market itself move into printing. So fast fashion is decaying our culture as well. And as part of Think City Institute's Earth Week 2021 campaign, one more thing. Tonight we'll also be having a documentary screening, The Clothes We Wear. Really dive into seeing where our clothes come from, the consumer, the evolution of consumer behavior around fashion, because truthfully, we have not consumed this way 20 to 30 years ago. And we'll be also touching on this topic of navigating greenwashing that is happening in a lot of mass fashion brands today, which are, stepping into the sustainability space. So we really love to see you there tonight as well. And as part of Think City Institute's Earth Week 2021 campaign, attendees will be receiving a 30% discount voucher for the Habitat Penang Hill, made possible by the Habitat Penang Hill and Habitat Foundation. The Habitat Penang Hill is the iconic rainforest park set alongside the ancient rainforest atop Penang Hill, and you can enjoy breathtaking views of the island while supporting the work of the Habitat Foundation, which is working to safeguard nature in Malaysia and beyond. So, as promised, please be our guest. We know that interstate travel is restricted at the moment, but when it lifts, I'm sure a lot of us would be game to explore more of Malaysia's wonders. So enjoy a 30% discount on entrance, courtesy of the Habitat Penang Hill, valid till the end of the year. Have a good afternoon for now. We'll see you at our next event, while we leave you with a video of the Habitat Penang Hill to give you a taste of what there is to look forward to. Thank you.